Bobby Fischer comes back from a losing position in this match against Samuel Reshevsky, and Fischer is playing with the black pieces and Reshevsky with the white pieces, and it's the Queen's Gambit exchange variation on the board here. So after this knight comes to c3, pawn is pushed to d5, and pawn is now captured. Knight captures back, and knight comes to f3 is played here. c5 is played now, attacking the pawn in the center, and pawn push to e3 develops the light square bishop. Knight to c6 is played. Bishop comes to d3 now. Bishop to e7 by Fischer, and castles on the king side both the players, and pawn push to a3 is now played. Pawn is captured here, and a pawn is captured back, creating this isolated pawn in the center. So knight retrieves to f6 here. So in case of a capture, you can capture back with the queen or with the pawn, blocking off this pawn as well. So this also creates this double attack on the pawn here. So the bishop drop backs here to c2 here, protecting his pawn over here. So b6 is played here, allowing Fischer to free exchange his bishop and attack the king. And queen to d3 is played, threatening to attack the h7 square. And with the knight here and the rook here, it also knight defends the rook here. Once the knight gone, if the rook is still here, it creates this checkmate trouble. So bishop to b7 by Fischer, and bishop comes to g5, attacking the knight right away, and pawn is pushed to g6, preventing this threat here. So in case of a capture of this knight, you still don't have a checkmate threat. So rook comes to e1 by Reshevsky, and Fischer brings his rook to e8 to cover it, and pawn to h4 is played. Rook to c8 by Fischer, and similar rook to c1 moved by Reshevsky now. So knight jumps to d5 here, attacking the bishop here, and knight to e4 is played by white knight. Not going for the exchange of this bishop here, keeping up the pressure and looking to exploit this weakness of Fischer over here. So pawn is pushed to f5, attacking the knight here. So bringing the knight around here is no longer possible. It was still not possible because of the knight here, but it was a good position to be exploited. So the knight retrieves to c3, and after that the bishops are exchanged, and knight captures it back, and knight to f4 by Fischer, attacking the queen, and the queen comes to d4 now. This allows the pawn to be captured like this, and a knight now jumps to b5, we're attacking the queen. So the queen exchange happens, and instead of capturing with the rook, the pawn captures, attack the knight, but you have this messed up pawn structure on the board for white here. So knight now goes ahead and captures this pawn here on g2. It's not a sacrifice, because once the king captures the knight here, this double check happens with not double check, this discover check happens, and the knight goes to d4, allowing you to capture your lost knight back. So once the bishop covers the check, the bishop captures the bishop, and knight captures the bishop back, and after that you can just get that early lost knight back into the game. But this allowed the knight to jump here and place the check here, and you'll be down. The Fischer is down the exchange right now. So you got to capture with the rook here, otherwise your king will be going down the board towards an end game. It's bad as well. So pawn push to a4 is played here, displacing the knight from here, which allows the rook to jump in here. So once the knight goes here to d6, rook comes, places the c7 check, and the king goes to f6, allowing the capture of either of these pawn here. And rook doubles up to c1 now, and now pawn is pushed to h6 here. The best move was to bring the rook here. Now Reshevsky is slightly better in this position actually. So the rook captures the a7 pawn, and knight jumps to e4, and rook goes after the second pawn on a6, and rook to d8 is played here. So as of this position, Reshevsky is better here in this particular position as of now, but he places this mistake and brings his rook here, tries to protect his pawn. The best move was to capture this particular pawn here, which would have defended this pawn anyways. But he played this mistake, brought his rook here, which allows the bishop Fischer to go to d3 and attack this pawn. And once this pawn is captured, you'll get his pawn back. And what that is, you still have two pawns which don't have any obstruction to be to go down the board, but Fischer have his own pawns here as well. So a5 is played now, and still Reshevsky is slightly better in this position. f4 by Fischer, and rook to f2, which is a mistake. And now this position is quite pretty equal now. Knight captures without any delay. King captures back. Rook to e4 is played, and the pawn pushed to b4. Rook to e3, cutting off the king from helping these particular pass pawns. So a6 is played, and rook to a3 is played. Rook c6. Nice. Basically, now as of this position, Fischer is slightly better, and his comeback starts now. So pawn push. After that, exchanges happen. Pawn is again pushed to b5, pushing the pawns here down the board. So rook drops to c8, which is a mistake. The best move was to bring the rook over here to c1, but he didn't go for that line. King comes up the board to f5, and after the pawn push, which again is a mistake, Fischer is winning in this position. So this pawn push basically ensures Fischer's position is better. After the check, the king cannot come down the board, it goes back, and after that, rook places the check here. Actually, Fischer's best move was to push the pawn here, and there was another line. I'm not going to show you that particular line fully. The king comes up here, and g2 is now played, and rook f8 brings the kings up the board. And after this capture of f4 with a check, the king captures back, and this pawn push and the queens basically. So both the pawns queen, and after the following moves, the basically Reshevsky will be out of check from this position basically. So from this position, you cannot place a check without going for the exchange of the queen. So once the queen exchange happens, basically checkmate will happen like this on the board. So basically, so this is the end basically, and because of that, as of this position, Samuel Reshevsky resigned the game. So that's how the game entered. Just show you the ancient combination, how it would have ended. That's all. So thanks for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.